Okay, so I've got an idea that has taken hold of me. I can't get away from this idea, and it is simply this. Whoever you are better off going through life knowing what the Bible actually says. So I'm Andrew. You come to my channel called Open Book Night. In this channel, we take the Bible, open it up, I give you the tools you need to navigate it and to be able to read it for yourself.
So let me address something right up front here, because I'm not approaching this in a way that assumes you believe anything in particular, nor am I here to convince you that you should think exactly the way I do. But as you can see, God, in his various forms, is in this story. So if you're feeling offended right now by what you see on the screen, if the mere mention of God is causing the hairs on your neck to stand up, then you may want to drop out right now. No offense is intended, and no offense is taken. So what this book is, it is the story of human history. And although humans wrote it all down, it is our history according to God. And basically, it is a history that repeats itself over and over. And it goes something like this. God creates something good for us, tells us what the rules are. This is called a covenant. Now, we find a way to break the rules. So, God has to revise the covenant and establish new rules. This happens several times in the first book alone. So there's something else you're going to need to know to begin to understand what the Bible is. Okay, so what is the Bible? Well, it's 66 different books, and they're all in one collection, but that collection can be divided and understood to be in two unequally sized smaller collections, first being the Hebrew Bible or Tanakh, which I refer to that as the Old Testament, and I say it that way because the more recent collection is known only as the New Testament. And in each of these volumes, we can further understand what's going on by dividing them into three major groups. The Hebrew Bible is going to have 17 total history books, books that primarily tell historical stories, 5 books that are largely poetical in nature. They are some other writings. 17 more books are the prophets, so we'll call those the prophetical books. So the New Testament concludes with one book of prophecy. The majority of the New Testament is a collection of letters. Some of these are quite short. There's 21 letters to be precise. The most important part of the New Testament are what's called the Gospels. And these are 4 different accounts, 4 different authors writing about one person and one series of events. There's a critical 5th book here. It's connecting tissue kind of between the first 4 and understanding where these letters are coming from. This book begins with an anachronism. It says in the first book, book was actually not a thing when the books of the Bible were written. So what's going on there? It only really is recently that someone can even get their hands on a Bible. The Bible canon was established about 1650 years ago. Canon is a word, it means something different depending on which search engine you use, but one of the simplest definitions is inspired. So this means people spent about 300 years determining what was and what was not the Bible. And yet, the only way to read it, say for another 1,000 years, was to hear it. Someone would have to bring out a scroll and read from it. So then about 800 years ago, somebody got the idea to add chapters to the Bible. They added chapters so you could more easily find specific passages. It's kind of a good idea that took a long time to get to, like putting wheels on luggage. And it was actually a few more centuries after that that we started to see verses. And it was around this time that printing press and everything else got invented, so it was possible to collate all of these scrolls into what we know as a book. So now, suddenly you've got the book and you've got the chapters and the verses, so one would assume that's the way it's always been. Instead of looking for favorite quotations and referencing these numbers like you see here, it's better to read everything in context. So here's one thing to look for. There are numbers in the Bible that are repeated. They come up repeatedly. Not just any numbers, specific numbers come up again and again within the context of the Bible. And those numbers are 3, 7, 10, 12, and then multiples of the number 20, with 40 being the most common. here on the screen is just one small example from the book of Esther. Okay, so the takeaway is you should have a Bible that you can read for yourself in the language that you speak, in a translation that's clear enough for you to understand. There's quite a few translations into English. Just a few of the ones that I recommend you can see on the screen. So how do you get your hands on a Bible? Well, I've got 3 different recommendations. YouVersion is the app that I prefer. Of the many options out there, I like YouVersion because it actually does allow you to just with a tap go from one translation to another. So in these United States, there are churches all over the place. You'll see them. They're the big buildings with the cross symbol on the outside. If you walk in and you ask for a Bible, I think that at the very least they'll let you borrow one, if not let you take one home with you. You can also go to just about any hotel room, open the nightstand drawer, and see if there's one in there. And if you earnestly plan to read it, take it. Take it with you, take it home, read it. That one's yours. So in our next video, we're going to be diving into the historical books of the Old Testament. We're going to look at the 11 books that make up a pretty much seamless timeline. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.